The wheel rim gleamed under the streetlight, polished, flawless, untouched by pity. Leora's hand rested on it, steady, practiced, a queen in exile. Her breath fogged the cold air, slow and deliberate, like someone refusing to let the world rush her anymore. Then came the laughter. Loud, cheap, too human. Each note hit the air like glass breaking. She didn't flinch, but her pulse betrayed her. One uneven beat, a sound only she could hear. She shouldn't even be here. Maybe she's looking for sympathy. Another voice. Another laugh. She rolled forward, the wheels whispering against the pavement, a rhythm of defiance that no one but she could understand. But the noise followed, the echo of mockery chasing her shadow. And then it stopped. The air changed. Even the streetlight seemed to hold its breath. From behind her, a new sound. Slower. Heavier. Footsteps. Each one measured, deliberate, as if the ground itself respected them. The crowd's laughter fractured mid-breath. Heads turned. Words died on tongues. He stepped into the light. Vincenzo DiCarlo, the kind of man whose silence spoke louder than any threat. The darkness around him bent, not from fear, but recognition. He didn't look at her. Not yet. His eyes locked onto the ones who'd laughed. His voice came quiet, calm in a way that made the air tremble. Laugh again. No one moved. No one breathed. The city noise returned only in fragments, a car horn in the distance, the faint hum of a flickering light. But between them stretched a silence that felt alive. Leora's hands froze on her wheels. For the first time that night, she didn't know whether to feel protected or cornered. The laughter was gone, but something else had replaced it. Something far more dangerous, and for the first time in years, she felt seen. The city never truly sleeps. It hums, like a machine that's forgotten how to rest. Leora moves through it, one turn of the wheel at a time, each spin whispering the same rhythm she's lived by since the accident. Forward. No matter who's watching, the echo of laughter still trails behind her, faint but sharp. It isn't new, only familiar, like a scar that never quite fades. She turns into a narrow street lined with flickering lights. The smell of rain on concrete reminds her of another night, years ago. The crash, the broken glass, the voice that kept repeating her name. You're fine. You're fine. But she wasn't. Her fingers brush the edge of the wheel again. Habit, not need. And she exhales slowly, the way she was taught to breathe when pain became too much to speak. People think strength is loud. For her, it has always been quiet. At home, the walls listen better than most humans. The small apartment is neat, too neat. Order pretending to be peace. On the shelf sits a photograph turned face down. Her mother's smile, frozen in a time when Leora still believed life owed her softness. She brews tea she won't drink. Watches the steam rise and curl, then vanish. The same way Hope used to. Outside, a car passes. The sound low, familiar, controlled. A black sedan, slow at the corner, its headlights dragging light across her window. For a moment, she feels the air change again. That same weight from earlier. Quiet, but unmistakable. Vincenzo. She doesn't know his name yet, but she feels his presence, like the storm that follows lightning. He sits somewhere across the city, alone in a room filled with luxury and silence. A man surrounded by power, but haunted by everything it's cost him. The glass of whiskey on his desk remains untouched. He stares instead at his reflection in the dark window, the city lights framing him like a confession he hasn't spoken yet. He remembers the girl, not her face, just the stillness in her eyes. The kind that doesn't beg, doesn't break. The kind he hasn't seen in years. Leora exhales again, deeper this time. The night outside feels different, charged with something she can't name. She tells herself it's nothing. Just the wind. Just the city. But beneath that lie, something inside her whispers. The world shifted tonight. And you felt it. Morning light spills across the city like it's apologizing for the night before. Leora wakes early. The air smells faintly of rain and regret. She wheels to the window and watches people below, walking, rushing, belonging. The same world that once looked at her like she was unfinished. She tells herself she doesn't care. That yesterday was just noise. But something inside won't quiet down. The way the man appeared. The way silence obeyed him. The way the laughter stopped. Who was he? A knock at her door. 2 soft raps, hesitant, unfamiliar. She freezes, half expecting it to be the landlord, maybe another apology from a stranger who doesn't mean it. But when she opens the door, an envelope rests on the ground. Heavy paper, no name. No address, no signature, no clue. Just words that feel too precise to be random. Her first instinct is suspicion. The second, something dangerously close to comfort. She sets it aside, but the sentence lingers like a whisper she can't unhear. Across the city, Vincenzo sits in his car outside a cafe, watching through tinted glass as his men exchange updates. He doesn't listen. His attention drifts to the memory of the girl from last night. The look in her eyes when the crowd fell silent. Not fear, not gratitude. Something rarer, defiance wrapped in exhaustion. He hadn't planned to interfere. He doesn't do mercy. It complicates things. But something in her silence had unsettled him. His phone buzzes. One of his lieutenant's voices hums through. "Boss, you want us to handle those guys from last night?" Vincenzo's gaze hardens. "No, leave them. They've already been handled." The man hesitates. Handled? How? They learned silence. Then he ends the call. He shouldn't care. He tells himself it was just a moment, a flicker of irritation, nothing more. Yet he can't stop replaying it. The way her hands had steadied the wheels. The way she never looked away. Back in her apartment, Leora sits at the small table with untouched tea. The letter beside her, its edges already softening from where her fingers keep finding it. She knows she should throw it away. But she doesn't. She reads it again. "You don't owe the world your pain." Then why does it keep taking it anyway? Outside, thunder murmurs somewhere far off, a promise that the quiet won't last. The rain came without warning. Soft at first, then harder, until every drop felt like a memory she didn't ask to relive. Leora wheeled through the narrow market street, her coat pulled close. The city looked blurred, reflections of light trembling on wet asphalt. She hated the rain. It always made her remember the crash, the sound of twisting metal and her own heartbeat echoing inside it. She stopped beneath an awning to breathe. The letter was still in her bag. She hadn't told anyone, not that there was anyone to tell. That's when she saw him again, across the street. Vincenzo. He stood beside a car, speaking to someone she didn't recognize, a man in a dark coat with eyes too sharp to belong to a friend. Their voices were low, but the tension between them carried across the rain. Leora couldn't hear words, only tone. Hard, controlled, dangerous. The man handed Vincenzo a small folder. He opened it, glanced, and then, without hesitation, tore a page from it. Crumpled it. Threw it into the gutter. The gesture wasn't rage. It was power. And then his gaze lifted. Across the rain, straight to her. She froze. For one breath, it felt like the whole city disappeared. But instead of recognition, his face hardened. Cold. Impersonal. He turned away first. Walked back to his car without a word, her chest tightened, though she didn't understand why. She told herself it didn't matter, that he was nothing, just another man who made silence sound like control. But something in her broke at that moment. Something small and fragile that had begun to believe the letter's words might be real. When the car pulled away, the crumpled paper swirled in the puddle near her wheel. She looked down. The ink bled, but she could still read the fragment. Her breath stopped. He'd known her name, the envelope. The words. It hadn't been kindness. It had been research. Rainwater ran down her face. Or maybe it wasn't rain anymore. Across the city, Vincenzo sat in the car, staring through the windshield, expression unreadable. He hadn't expected her to see that file. He hadn't wanted her to know how long he'd been watching. For the first time in years, the man who controlled everything didn't know how to fix what he'd just broken. The next evening found her at the same cafe, the one she never went to anymore. Rain still clung to the windows. Streetlights cast the city in pale gold. Leora sat by the corner table, her hands motionless on the rim of her wheel, waiting for the tea she wouldn't drink. She didn't know why she came. Maybe curiosity, maybe anger. Maybe she just wanted to see if the ghost from last night was real. The bell above the door chimed. She didn't have to look up to know it was him. Vincenzo stepped inside like silence wearing a suit. No entourage. No shadow, just him. He saw her before she spoke, and the distance between them felt sharper than words. He moved closer. Stopped a few steps away. "You shouldn't have followed me," she said, her voice steady but low. He studied her, unreadable. "You think I planned it?" Her laugh was dry. "The report with my name on it says otherwise." A pause, thin, dangerous. He exhaled, slow. "That wasn't meant for you to see." "And what was it meant for?" "Protection. Control," she corrected. The space between them tightened. Her tone cut through the quiet like glass. He didn't flinch, but his voice softened. "You were mocked in my streets. I wanted to know why." "You wanted to own the reason." She wheeled closer, until she could see her reflection in his eyes, a flicker of defiance framed by exhaustion. "You think your power gives you the right to decide what I need?" He hesitated. For a man who ruled entire districts, the silence that followed was his first defeat. "No," he said finally. "Then what do you want?" For the first time, his composure cracked. "To understand why someone like you doesn't break." The words landed between them, raw and unguarded. She blinked, not expecting honesty. The walls she'd built trembled, but she held her ground. "Maybe because I already did." The line lingered. He said nothing, just looked at her like the answer cost him something. Outside, thunder rolled again, not loud, but close enough to remind them both that storms never stay far. Leora turned her chair slightly, enough to break the tension. "You don't get to make me your project, and you don't get to pretend you don't care." Silence. One breath. Two. Both truths hanging there, neither willing to fall first. Then she whispered, softer. Not for him, but for herself. "I'm tired of being seen only when I'm hurt." He looked away. For a man made of control, it was the closest thing to surrender. Night wrapped the city in hush. Leora sat alone again, the letter spread open under a single lamp. Its edges had begun to curl, paper softened by the hours she'd spent touching it, like she was trying to rub truth out of ink. Every part of her wanted to hate him. But hate required certainty, and she had none left. A soft knock at the door, once, then twice. She wheeled closer, hesitated, then opened it. Vincenzo stood there, uninvited, unarmed, unguarded. Rain darkened his coat. His eyes looked nothing like the man from before. He didn't step inside. He only said, "I owe you the truth." Silence. A heartbeat. Then he continued, voice steady but stripped bare. "You were under protection long before you saw me." She frowned. "Protection from what?" He looked away. The streetlight caught the scar that ran faintly along his jaw, proof of a past lived in violence. "Your father," he said. "He once did something for me, something that cost him everything." "He never told you." Her breath caught. "You knew my father?" "I owed him a debt I could never repay. He saved my life. The night he died, he made me promise to keep you safe." The room seemed smaller, the air too heavy. She shook her head slowly. "You watched me my whole life because of a promise?" "Because of guilt," he said softly. "I thought protecting you would make it less." It never did. She stared at him. The walls blurred, her pulse too loud in her ears. "You could have told me. Would you have believed me?" A long silence stretched, fragile, almost holy. He stepped closer, voice low enough to tremble. That letter wasn't surveillance, Leora, it was a warning. Someone inside my circle found out about you. They thought hurting you would hurt me. Her throat tightened. So now I'm leverage, he shook his head. No, you're the only thing that ever reminded me I still have a soul. Pause. 4 seconds. The kind that feels like eternity. She looked at him then, not as a savior, not as a threat, but as a man breaking in real time. The anger she carried loosened just slightly. All this time, she whispered, I thought you were watching me. Maybe you were just trying not to look away. He said nothing, but his eyes said everything she wasn't ready to hear. Outside, thunder faded to a distant hum. Inside, the air finally exhaled. The night held its breath. Neither spoke. The lamp between them hummed softly, a sound too small for the weight of what had just been said. Leora's hands rested on her lap, still, almost graceful, but her fingers trembled. She'd spent years mastering silence. Now it betrayed her. You don't owe me anything, she whispered. He didn't answer. His jaw tightened, then eased. You think that's what this is? He said quietly. A debt? She met his eyes, calm, tired, shining. It's always a debt, Vincenzo. With men like you, even kindness costs something. He stepped closer, slow, like every movement risked shattering the fragile peace between them. You think I want payment? I think you don't know what you want, she replied. Her voice shook. You saved me because you needed to feel clean again. You found me because you were lonely. A pause. He looked down, hands clasped, the posture of a man who's fought every war except the one inside himself. And if that's true, he asked, then it's still more honest than pity. The confession wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It cracked something open. He closed the distance until he stood within reach. For the first time, he didn't try to control the air between them. You don't understand, he said. I see you. The way you keep moving when the world tries to stop you. I saw it the first night. I haven't stopped since. She blinked, trying to breathe evenly, but her throat burned. You see what I survived, she whispered. Not who I am. He shook his head slowly. No. I see the woman who stopped running. The one who could have hated everyone and didn't. The one I wish I'd met before I became this. The air trembled. Leora's voice dropped to a whisper. I've been strong too long, Vincenzo. I'm tired. He stepped forward again, but didn't touch her. Only looked, as if asking permission to exist in the same breath. Then let someone else be strong for you, he said. Silence. The kind that isn't empty, but full. Her lips parted. A single tear slipped down, landing softly on her hand. She didn't answer. Didn't need to, because sometimes confession isn't spoken. It's endured. And in that quiet, something fragile began to heal. Morning arrived soft and colorless. Light filtered through the thin curtains, turning dust into gold. Leora hadn't slept. Not fully. Only drifted in and out of dreams that felt too close to truth. Her heartbeat had stopped chasing fear. It now moved quietly, like it was learning a new rhythm. Vincenzo stood by the window, coat over the chair, tie undone. He hadn't spoken since the night before. Neither had she. But sometimes peace begins where words end. The kettle whistled once. Sharp, small. She turned her chair, poured 2 cups. Her hands didn't shake this time. He accepted the cup, their fingers brushing. For the first time, he didn't flinch. The silence between them was no longer heavy, only honest. You're leaving, aren't you? She asked softly. He nodded. For a while. It's safer that way. She didn't ask what that meant. She already knew, and after? After, he said. You'll never have to look over your shoulder again. She looked at him. Really looked. The man who once made the world bow now standing in her small kitchen, holding tea like it was something holy. You did what you promised, she said. My father would have thanked you. His eyes softened. He already did. Through you. A small smile found her lips. It didn't feel borrowed this time. Outside, the rain had stopped. The street glistened, washed clean, reborn. He set the cup down and turned toward the door. She didn't stop him. Some goodbyes don't need words. They just need peace. As the door opened, he paused, not to speak, but to breathe. Then he looked back once, the faintest trace of warmth breaking through the armor. You were never broken, Leora. A breath. You just survived too beautifully for them to understand. The door closed, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel small. She wheeled toward the window, watching light spill across the street. No laughter, no stares. Just a quiet city learning to be kind again. She exhaled, long, steady, free. The city kept moving. It always would. But somewhere within its restless noise, a quiet truth had taken root. Leora had learned that mercy wasn't weakness. It was strength, wearing gentleness as armor. The kind of power that doesn't demand, only protects. The kind that asks nothing in return except honesty. For years, she believed survival meant staying untouched, keeping the world at a distance so it couldn't break her again. But now she understood that survival without connection was only another kind of prison. Silent, polished, and lonely. Vincenzo had shown her something no apology could. That even the powerful crave absolution, and even the broken can become a refuge for someone else's soul. Forgiveness wasn't sudden. It never is. It came quietly, like morning light spilling across the scars of night. Not erasing them, but proving they could still shine. There would be other days, other storms, other voices that tried to remind her of what she wasn't. But she would remember this, that every silence she endured had taught her how to listen, and every cruelty had taught her the shape of kindness. Power can learn mercy. Love can exist without ownership. And sometimes the ones who walk through fire aren't looking for rescue. Only someone unafraid to stand beside the flames. The world hadn't changed. But she had. The wheel rim gleamed again under morning light, polished, flawless, but different now. It no longer looked like armor. It looked like freedom. Leora rolled down the same street where it all began. The stones were the same, the corners the same, but the echoes had changed. The laughter that once haunted these walls was gone. In its place, quiet. Not silence, but respect. People glanced as she passed, then looked away. Not in cruelty, but in calm. She didn't shrink from their gaze. She didn't hide from it either. For the first time, being seen didn't hurt. She paused at the corner where he'd once stood, the shadowed place where fear had learned its name. Now it was just another patch of sunlight. A car moved slowly in the distance. Black, familiar. Then gone. She smiled. Small, knowing, private. Some debts, she realized, aren't meant to be repaid. They're meant to be understood. As the city breathed around her, she closed her eyes and listened. No mockery, no noise. Only the faint hum of life moving forward. Her hands rested on the wheel, steady, at peace. The same rim that once carried her through humiliation now carried her through grace. She exhaled. "Thank you," she whispered. "To no one, and to everything." The world answered with quiet. And for once it was enough. Fade to silence, 5 seconds, then nothing but light.